Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor. And today I'm going to talk about a subject that has really been on my mind for the last couple of days.
Word from our affiliate, Bishop Sheen Rosaries. You've probably worn through the chain of your cheap plastic rosary. Other rosaries simply can't stand up to the wear and tear of everyday life. Bishop Sheen rosaries are made of solid metal beads and paracord to withstand any condition and are backed with a lifetime warranty. Upgrade your rosary to a Bishop Sheen rosary made to fit your lifestyle or buy one for a friend. Each rosary sold supplies 2 weeks of food for a school kid in Uganda. You use the exclusive link down below to help support our efforts here at Plotlines. The link will take you to sheenrosaries.com. Be sure to use the code Plotlines10.
As I've been reading the fantasy trilogy known as Another Kingdom by Andrew Klavan. I think it's really given me an understanding of the sort of different perspectives between authors and sort of how their philosophy and worldview interact with each other, but also sort of conflict. You know what I mean? There's people obviously don't agree with each other in this world very often, and I mean I think that's a very big problem, but it sort of shows a sort of different strain of belief in authors and kind of a lack of understanding, a lack of belief. And I'm in the middle of the third book. So I'm not really, so if there's something that changes my mind about the book series or one of the books, I will definitely talk about that in a future episode to clarify or to sort of figure out what is the right perspective, or what my new perspective is based on a holistic view of the trilogy. So I will confront any changes to my point of view in the future. But as of now, I think I have a good understanding of his perspective, his philosophy regarding regarding the world and how it's seen through the eyes of like a fantasy genre. And then I want to talk about two other authors today and how they compare with him as well as each other. George R.R. Martin and J.R.R. Tolkien. You might be maybe a bit surprised that I've read the Song of Ice and Fire. It's definitely not sort of a right up the alley of many of my previous episodes, because it's a much more profane, vulgar series. I think there's a lot that can be understood literarily from it. I don't prescribe reading A Song of Ice and Fire to everyone. I think it can be useful. I think it can be entertaining. I also know that it can probably be dangerous for some people, and maybe even it wasn't. It could be a very genuine possibility that it was bad for me too. I'm not sure about that, but it's not like watching the show. It's not porn, basically, and porn is involved in a Game of Thrones, but A Song of Ice and Fire, because it's literature and because like it's not supposed to be necessarily erotic fiction. I think it is, it's a different type of story, and the I just don't find it that it creates the same effects. But there's the elements of George R.R. Martin are, everything is vulgar. Everything has lowered itself to a debasement. It's it the world has fallen completely, and there is no savior coming, really. I mean, everyone is doing terrible things to get to ends that are not necessarily good, because they're often selfish. Even the closest thing you have in George R.R. Martin's writing is honor, that's the closest thing you have to good, but even honor is not always good, because honor for the sake of honor doesn't lead you anywhere if the thing that you're seeking with honor is not good itself. Honor for the sake of honor just sets things up to continue as they are. And Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire sort of also shows or determines that honor does not actually lead to victory. So even when you're fighting for honor, it doesn't mean you're going to win. It doesn't mean you're going to be the hero. And like I said, it's not necessarily specifically good. Honor isn't good by itself. It's devoid of knowledge of good, and that's what really it is. It's like there in A Song of Ice and Fire, there are all these different religions. They all believe wildly different things. They don't really have. There's no real good or no truth to be found. It seems it's just sort of whatever anyone believes is, gives them power or whatever. But anyway, so George R.R. Martin has twisted characters throughout all of his writing, and he doesn't seem to. It almost seems like he doesn't understand that there's a good, because in a world where there is a good, there has to be somebody that is trying to find that, and nobody's trying to find that. It's all about the good. Oh, so the quote unquote good characters, all they're doing is trying to protect people from dying. But everyone's going to die someday. That's not an answer of what is good. Good is not just purely self-defense. You don't accomplish good by merely being alive or preventing other people from dying. You do so by living a virtuous life. And I think this is shown, interesting enough, there's a sort of a transition. So with Andrew Klavan knows that there is good in the world. Andrew Klavan knows that there is a savior, that there is that we're heading towards something. We want to find something. We want to find what is good in the world, and it's personified by the main character in the story, Austin Lively, who is consumed by the profane, by the vulgar in Hollywood, in LA. He's surrounded by terrible people lost, people that don't know what they're doing, that are confused. They're just absolutely lost in filth. And he is too. He's not very good at living in the filth. He hasn't accomplished anything to begin with. And it's just absolutely distressing for him. He is not happy in his life, and he is thrown into a story that drives him to pursue good. But even the people that are driving him to pursue good don't really know what good is either. He's trying to find it. But that's, I think, because Andrew Klavan doesn't know truly what good is. He hasn't been exposed to the fullness of good. He's an Anglican. George R.R. Martin is a lapsed Catholic. So George R.R. Martin is basically has lost all concept of the good and the holy. Andrew Klavan is pursuing the good and the holy, but is sort of on the cusp or close to it, but is sort of preventing himself from going the step forward to find what is the fullness of truth. But I think that's shown in his art. There are profane moments, there are vulgar moments, there are terrible moments. I would say both George R.R. Martin and Andrew Klavan's literature are not meant for children. Children shouldn't be reading it. It's definitely adult fiction. And I think in some ways these types of literature are important to some degree, because when I read A Song of Ice and Fire, I know, oh, these people are terrible. Like, why? I don't want to be them. I want to learn from like what learned from their mistakes. They put pride over everything. Honor is the closest thing, like I said, to truth, but or it's not the truth. It's not truth. It's just the only quality that people actually want to see in others. You're told to be honorable, but no one is, and that's mostly stated sort of between, like, if you look at Ned Stark, he is the quintessential honorable character. Everyone likes him, and then what you perceive is Jaime Lannister as the least honorable character, but you learn that in a way he could be very honorable. He has just lost himself into filth, knowing that everyone hates him. He's driven to become more honorable, which is sort of one of the only strides that at least that the characters really show. Not a lot of characters in A Song of Ice and Fire really make strides to be better, which is interesting. But anyways, back to Another Kingdom. There are different characters, mostly like in this other world, in this other kingdom, where Austin Lively is thrown into. You see sort of people who know the truth, but can't express it, or are unwilling to express it, which doesn't really make sense. Like the phrase that they chant in the story is, "Let wisdom reign and every man go his own way." It's somewhat Freemason-like. It lessens sort of the importance of truth, in my opinion. I feel like it's something that's moving towards truth, but not getting to the heart. It's not. It's what let wisdom reign, sure, but how can each man go their own way when wisdom reigns? When wisdom reigns, everyone is united. You can't have these people who are separated by belief or by philosophy or by understanding of the world if wisdom reigns, because wisdom is God. God is wisdom. If God reigns, when God reigns, everyone is one, and everyone who rejects him has cast himself into the fire. So it doesn't really make sense, right? You can't have everyone go their own way. When everyone goes their own way, they end up in hell. That's just a matter of fact. Hell is deciding your way over God's way. So let wisdom reign. Definitely. Let every man go his own way. Doesn't work. Or you're just setting everyone up for hell. And this is one of the problems with like Klavan, or one of the things I disagree with Klavan on is, he's more of a libertarian, and he finds that, or he thinks that even if, people are wrong, that it will benefit everyone to figure things out for themselves. That it doesn't work. Society collapse. Society doesn't work that way. You have to have some unifying principle, and that principle can't be freedom. Freedom is not a principle that sustains itself. It just creates more division and more I mean, it protects you from people who are evil, but that's about it. Which I guess is a step above being ruled by the evil, which society is mostly ruled by the evil. Whether they're evil actors, people attempt like acting evil and knowing that they're evil, or people that think they're doing good, but really they're acting in an evil manner. And I think that's important to understand. Now, so Klavan is searching for it. Maybe at the end of the story we'll somehow get a complete revelation of what good is. I don't know. It doesn't, that part about let wisdom reign, each man go his own way, doesn't seem to work sort of with an understanding that would lead us to truth. At least, yeah, no, it just wouldn't work. I think I think society would collapse. And it's sort of weird because a lot of society is collapsing in his book, and it's because wisdom is no longer reigning, but plenty of people are going their own way. They're going their own way into tormenting others. Now, the other people aren't going in their own way, but that's kind of the problem, is not every man can literally go his own way. Because if everyone's driving on a street and they're going their own direction, everyone's just going to hit each other. That won't work. Now, I sort of have a soft spot for some sort of anarchy, medieval anarchy or monarchy, anarchy, anarcho-monarchy. That has some ring of truth because it's sort of an agreed upon chaos, in a sense, that sort of is an order. I mean, it's an order that feels, or that looks from a modern perspective like chaos, but it's not chaos. It's just agreed upon order that is not that is structured by people who have to cooperate to get anything done, and that's really what monarchy is. And it's also interesting because there's all these kings and queens and Narnia-like characters in Andrew Klavan's book Another Kingdom, and so it comes to the questions like, is he going to realize something about this? How are there kings and queens? Like how are kings and queens sort of the answer from his perspective of this fantasy world, and that there's a republic that's kind of the evil that rebelled against the queen and has now become sort of the villainous country because it's run by a republic of greedy people. How is that not different from our world? And how can you advocate for a good republic, sort of, if it's clear that republics or even other forms of government are just more productive at face value, even if you take it from the perspective as, oh, like people won't accept monarchy. Well, sure, maybe if that's the argument you're making, sure. That's usually not what Klavan usually makes in his works. And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of his. I really enjoy his perspective, and I think he's very helpful, especially as a backdrop to understanding what good art is. And he helps me understand what good art is almost by being someone I can look to as, okay, this is his opinion. I value his opinion. His art is very good. Is it what I think art should be? I don't know. I don't know if his art is what I would say art should be. I know what art should be because I see it in Tolkien's art. Tolkien has the fullness of truth. He celebrates the fullness of truth. He doesn't even have to show to show you sort of it, like, knocking you over the head with it. He's telling you this is the truth, and this is just a matter of fact. I'm going to show you what truth looks like, and you can figure it out on your own. You can obviously figure it out from his work what truth is. Now, he was obviously a devout Catholic. He basically said he was somewhere between a monarchist and an anarchist. I feel the same way. There's the two forms of government are oddly close to each other. But anyway, so the Shire, the beauty of the Shire, the pleasantness of the Shire, but also sort of the element of taking up your cross, like Frodo, like Gandalf, like Faramir, all the heroic members, yeah, Aragorn, Frodo, Gandalf are the Christ-like figures. I mean, they all of the characters really have a Christ figure moment with them, sort of when they decide to leave their comfort and pursue good. And good for Tolkien is, sort of, it's good personified. For him, evil is the absence of good. And I think it's best shown in Saruman's character. So he starts off as Saruman the White, and then he becomes Saruman of many colors. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I've pointed out that, I've pointed out that he sort of is relativism. Saruman is an example of relativism, and Sauron is an example of nihilism. So, nothing matters. Don't worry. There's no morality. It doesn't. You don't have to live a certain way. Just do what you want to do. While relativism is do what's best for you. You can do good things or bad things, but as long as it's sort of making things better for you, then it's okay. And that's sort of what Saruman becomes. He becomes Saruman of many colors. He goes from the fullness of truth to sort of truth broken. Like white is all the colors of the rainbow, or all the colors on the spectrum. And when you separate them all, you lose sight of what is true and beautiful. And that's what happens to Saruman. And Gandalf takes over that after his death and resurrection. He becomes Gandalf the White. He becomes the leader. He becomes the example to everyone, sort of what good is and what are we striving for, the good and the beauty. Andrew Klavan sort of has an element of beauty in his stories as something that's pursuable but not tangible. You can't get to it. You don't really know what it is. It's like an air of mystery. While Tolkien has it sort of flowing out of what is of all the protagonists, and it's to show how Tolkien really knows how to write heroes, because he knows what a hero is. A hero is selfless. A hero is the quintessential knight. He is going against comfort. He is taking on difficulties for other people. He is sacrificing himself for everything else. And he doesn't need religion to really be a part of Lord of the Rings, because he doesn't need to knock people over the head with it. He's sort of philosophically showing how to live. Don't be too hasty with condemning people. Frodo is told not to kill Gollum because Frodo can't save everyone who deserves life. So he should be wary of killing those who deserve death. And that's an important thing, because it's not Frodo's job to do such things. There are people in the world that have authority over others regarding such things. But Frodo is just a hobbit. He has not been given such authority. He is sort of on his own. He's on his own path, his own responsibilities. His responsibility is to carry his cross, which is the ring, to Mount Doom and try and get the ring destroyed. And even Frodo fails. Frodo fails to destroy the ring, but God does not. The overall good wins out, not because of anything we can do by ourselves, but because of how we're assisted. Providence is how we're assisted. And I think fantasy, what George R.R. Martin kind of cuts out is providence. He does not he doesn't understand it. So that's why fantasy in Tolkien's mind is, of course, it's not like supposed to be realistic necessarily. Not like Martin's trying to make realistic fantasy or something to that effect. But fantasy is meant to sort of show us a sort of a unrealistic or like profoundly, or well, actually profoundly realistic in some ways, because it's more of a spiritual sense. It's, even though bad things happen, there are good things that rebound from it, and that's what is shown in a lot of these stories. But anyway, so Martin is kind of the embodiment of the profane. Klavan has one foot in the profane, one foot in truth, in beauty. He's just not there yet. He hasn't crossed the Tiber. But Tolkien is living in the fullness of beauty and doesn't need to explain it to people. He does occasionally in like his writings in the beginning of the book, and how he said that his books didn't start off to be Catholic. Like he didn't mean to write a Catholic novel. That was just by accident. In the rewrite, the editing, he made it explicit. It was implicit prior, and now it's explicit. But this is, I think this would be good to continue this conversation maybe in the future. I would love to hear any questions that I could address about this topic. And maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there's another author I should bring into this conversation, sort of thing. And, one of the things is, I'd love to discuss this with Andrew Klavan one day on an episode, if I'm so lucky. But, thank you all for your time. Have a great rest of your day. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will catch you next time. Bye.